It's time to start the special meeting of the Board of Trustees for October 10th, 2023. Yes, Brooke?
Ms. Orich?
Here.
Mr. Unger?
Here.
Mr. Wald?
Here.
All right, thank you, Board. Today I've got a presentation prepared for you all that I'd like to run through that will kind of set the stage for capital. As you all recall, earlier in the year we made a modification to our rules of procedure that required us to have a capital reserve meeting annually that would look at what the reserve looks like as well as some other items. I thought it was also a good time to revisit our TIF plan that we rolled out last year and just kind of talk through those numbers as well. So while I run through this, it's just a few slides, but feel free to interrupt me at any time with any questions. And then there's a place on the agenda later to have a deeper dive. So attached here, this is our TIF plan. This should look very similar to last year. There's been very little change from last year's outside of some known dollars that have come in from a couple of the TIFs that have started to produce. So really we've looked to try to look at some of our big picture capital and how that might fit into our long-term financial models. If you recall back last year when we had this conversation, one of the big things that we wanted to make sure that we did was to set aside money so we could microsurface some of these communities. And so as those dollars start to churn, we look for opportunities where that could make sense, typically somewhere between the year 7 and year 10 mark of the life of that road. So that is something that is newer in this from what you saw about a year ago. But for the most part, most of these items are the same or similar. And some of these levers on here, you'll notice like Springdale East sidewalks. We will be seeking out different grant sources to cover that gap. So, for example, we're hoping to apply for grant money from SORTA, and if that comes to fruition, then that would come off of the TIF plan, which would then free up some additional dollars for future development or capital needs. So I'm going to pause there because there's a lot of information on this slide, but top half is potential projects by year, and bottom half really looks at the TIFs and what their ending cash balances would be like, factoring for any of these different projects. And there's a whole series of other sheets that goes along with this that actually looks at each TIF fund in more depth.
As we talked earlier on the phone for the public who's over reading this, so on the when the town center, how it starts dropping, some of them are dropping.
Yeah, so like the town center in particular, I believe that was a 15-year TIF that started in 2014. So around 2029, there should not be revenue coming in for that, but there will be a drop off as we make some expenses. That's one of the areas that we've openly talked about, could be a good funding source for things like bond repayments and different things like that. So those are some other items to keep in mind as we look at these is, can we earmark some of those dollars as we get closer to larger fund balances? Right now, the fund balances are relatively minuscule in all these TIFs. The town center one is probably the largest, and that is a known commodity, but that's mainly there because we do have some bond restrictions and covenants that prevent us from really spending those dollars until we get through the repayment of the debt on Generation Drive.
Okay.
I can't read the number that you have in there for Stone Creek retaining wall.
Yeah, so that is a placeholder of $800,000. One of those retaining walls we've been told is ours. I don't know that it will necessarily need repairs or fixing, but we figured let's start thinking about that and trying to keep that on.
And that's in the last year of what it looks like it's...
Yeah, it's 2034, so anything that could be beyond that time frame, I also put in that year just as a FYI.
Sure,
for us.
and I believe, having looked at it, that's a responsible thing to do is plan for that much work on it. That's a big project, and I think by then it's going to need to enough water washes down and gets in the stone behind it, and it's causing the stone to delaminate. And
it's a massive retaining wall too.
Yes, and it's probably going to be a lot more than that by 2034 to replace it, but I'm pretty familiar with it, so.
Any other questions on the TIF sheet?
Do these reflect some of these incoming TIFs? I think construction got started a little bit later than we thought, or sales or whatever, because of some supply chain issues. Have those been adjusted?
Yep. So some of these have been adjusted for that. So inverse and for move. Some things got moved up, some things got moved back. For example, Hunter's Ridge has produced far better than we thought, so that's why there's actually some dollars in that for 2024. We weren't expecting that to start taking off in earnest until after. But yes, we did make some of those adjustments. Oh, sorry.
And Abbeytown seems,
Abbeytown's been doing really well, but we have not seen any payments yet because most of that development has happened within this calendar year. But they're going quick up there.
they are, that's why I brought that up.
I
And we-
did, go ahead, Madam.
And we didn't have, do we have the one off of Sovereign?
Yes. Sovereign is the Northridge TIF. Yep.
And that seems a little high, is that?
When it's fully developed, it should do okay. Odds are 2024 will have to probably be pulled back a little bit. I'll have to revisit the agreement we have for that bridge because I'm not sure in my mind whether or not when those dollars become available, if we need to repay for years where we have to short it, or if that gets done at the end of the term. If I'm recalling correctly, I think it's at the end of the term, in which case those dollars would just kind of be held in earnest until we get to that point.
And this is more of a question, I think, for people that might be watching. You know, one of the things that all three of us promise is to keep the school district whole. Are we keeping in touch with them and letting them know, hey, this is flowing in slower than we thought. You're still going to be made whole. This is the difference.
Yep. We have those conversations all the time, and we process the payments to them. So
we did the Abbeytown grand opening, or ribbon cutting the other day. The model sold for 580. Sovereign, what did I say? Not Abbeytown, sorry, Northridge. And they've already got 6 under construction sold, so that's.
which that exceeds our estimates by about $200,000. So some of these are going to do very well compared to the estimates that were
Right.
built into the models. But we figured let's stay as conservative as possible until we get a few more years under our belt.
I would rather you be conservative and surprise me on the
Yeah,
upside.
just let you know that's gonna be too much better.
All right, so the next things to really start digging in on are capitals. So this is, we've met internally as our different departments. We've talked through what capital needs exist and what dollars are in the budget right now for capital projects. As part of this process, we did ask the department directors if they have any specific capital requests that they would like the capital reserve to consider to make that known. None of these items were requested to be funded through the capital reserve. So that means that these are all being looked at as part of ongoing operating levies and things like that to cover these costs. So happy to answer any questions on any of these. There may be some need for feedback from department directors too, depending on what they are. But for the most part, it's vehicles, improvement to parks, and improvements to this building that we're in now.
And what is NWLSD car purchase?
I'm sorry.
I know what NWLSD
Oh, yeah,
is.
So that's Northwest Local School District as
I
part
know
of our
that part.
agreement with the
They want a car, or they want us to buy our own car to
buy
run
our
around
own
there?
car for our staff members, and that's contemplated in their contract for reimbursement.
That they would reimburse us? Okay.
And Ed Cordy is shaking his head to verify that. So
Is this head going up and down or side to side?
up and down
Okay, that's good.
in a yes fashion.
I thought I better clarify that for those
Yep.
watching at home, since they can't see Chief Cordy.
So, and a lot of this we can talk about individually as we get into budget conversations. I know we like to review the budget one-on-one just to kind of walk through what's in there and not in there. So that'll be a great opportunity to talk about some of these. We did talk about what is quote unquote deferred. And so again, this is another really difficult sheet to look at. There's a lot of information in here, but basically we have a system in our fire fleet maintenance that spits out numbers based off of mileage and maintenance cost on when vehicles should, in theory, be replaced. And if you look at that, these are all the vehicles that should be. However, the caveat to that is our fleet department does just a tremendous job. They do such great work that we're able to take a lot of these vehicles and extend them far beyond their useful life. But I still wanted to include this because we talked about, well, what are some of the things that are out there that we maybe don't know about or we haven't planned for? And the reality is, you know, some of these items on this list are 20 plus years old and they could have their last day. But we continue to have a top-notch fleet maintenance division that keeps these things running. And so just for perspective, we wanted to make sure that this was included in the presentation for you all to consider.
So then what you're saying is we have this schedule, but we let the fleet maintenance who's there looking at the automobile make the decision.
They make recommendations, and for the most part, if it's been recommended to be in the budget, it has been included. There are some things here or there that, you know, we make the decision that we're prepared to put dollars into to continue to extend the life of the vehicle, or that we may not have identified a funding source for some of them, or we think there's grants out there. So, but for the most part, yeah, all these vehicles, they do a tremendous job at keeping up to date and keeping on the roads for us.
Because I imagine there could be examples of things lasting longer, but also examples of
Things going
something that
faster.
got beat the heck out of that needs to be replaced.
Or
early.
totaled, or whatever you
Yeah,
want. Yep.
okay.
So the next item is to just look at what the major capital projects are on the horizon. We just found out today, actually, that we were awarded another sidewalk grant. This is for sidewalks on Springdale Road to connect this building to Pool Road. So that's another big gap in our sidewalk infrastructure, and we just received about half of that funding today through an OKI grant. Again, these are some of the items that we've already paid for if it's in prior years, and some of the ongoing projects that we have on the horizon. So happy to take any questions on any of the projects that are in the pipeline or in the works at this point in time.
As we discussed earlier, the $3 million for the sidewalks, that's what we are proposing that's going to cost, but that does not take into account the money and grants from
So
SORTA.
yeah, that $3 million, that is all the dollars that has already gone out the door to the state of Ohio. We received about $800,000 by way of grant from OKI. We're in line, once the project is completed, to receive $1 million from SORTA for that project. And then we're in line, once the project is completed, to receive another $300,000 from Hamilton County. So out of that $3 million, $2.1 million was grant. Did I do that math right? I think.
You said, yeah, 8.
Yeah, 2.1 million was grant funded.
So I might have missed part of it on the Station 102 and Station 26 replacement. Why is that number not, or did we already spend $3 million on that before we turn the first shovel of dirt?
We have spent some of it. I just hadn't updated the sheet to reflect what year-to-date has been
Okay.
spent. I don't think it's been 3 million, because at this point, we've just paid architectural fees as we've kind of gone through the process.
Sure.
And pre-construction costs. So
Right.
it's not quite 3, but there has been some spend at this point. So GMP 1 was for 3 million, and GMP 1 really allowed us to purchase the metal buildings themselves. And so once we were able to sign that, they were able to place the order so that could get there in sort of a just-in-time delivery model that we're looking to use.
Okay, so we have, that's probably considerable.
That's a considerable number, but we haven't expended that number because we haven't actually taken receipt of those items yet.
So we've sent money to the manufacturer or not?
We have not sent money to the
Okay.
manufacturer. Yep.
So that'll show up in '24 when you update this.
Unless for some reason things go much faster and it all gets done before year end, but
Right.
that's, up to the
Okay.
contractor.
Thank you.
Yep. And then finally, just leaving some area for some final items here to talk about the capital reserve. So when we created this at the start of the year, we had set aside what is about the equivalent of $1.175 million to sort of be the seed money. The logic that we were using is any underspend and over revenue delta in the general fund, we were going to start holding that aside so that we could earmark it for large scale or smaller scale capital projects. So as we look at the 2024 and beyond process, like I said, no department had made any requests from that, but we can consider other things. For example, we could consider applying this against this year's purchase. We could consider it being a nice area where we could use matching dollars for any grant funds that we could get from the state for demolition. We could consider holding it aside for any future new police department renovations of firehouses, or we could consider holding it aside for any of those unknown deferred vehicle or facility things that we're just not aware of that may pop up faster than we thought. So that was kind of the last slide I had pre-prepared, and so I know the next item on the agenda is really just an opportunity for discussions and questions from you all.
With respect to that last slide, do you have enough set aside to maintain the Sears building for a year?
We do, yes.
So that's not, so that's aside from,
And that's
I
being
think we were at
contemplated as-
2,508,000
Yep,
as
and
of the last meeting.
Yep, and that's
So-
being contemplated as part of the general fund budget. I mean, we'll have to pay the CIC for those dollars as well.
Right, but that's about where we're at, so we've got 288,000 already set aside for that, plus the 2.22 that we paid for it.
Yep.
So that's kind of not promised anywhere at this point.
Correct.
Okay. I'm fine with just sitting with it because I just think that something's gonna come up with these fire stations that we have not anticipated. So I would rather just hang loose until we see how those are gonna play out.
Okay.
So I'd like to hold steady on that and revisit this at the end of the year when we know the final budget numbers from this year.
Sure.
I think that having cash on hand allows for us to take advantage of opportunities.
Yep.
And gives us flexibility, and that's why we created it, and that set it aside, and it's untouchable.
Yep.
For now.
And a great opportunity really will be, in my mind, with permanent appropriations, because usually that's when we have those firm budget numbers we've gotten through, and we've sent off our filings with the state, so everything is settled, and there's not any potential changes that could come down the pike.
Are we regulated by Ohio law as to how much of a capital reserve as a percentage of our budget we can have?
No, so the way that we structured this wasn't to create like a fund or anything to that effect. This is a line item that we've placed on our long-term forecast.
So the one thing I've talked over and over again is not looking 6 months down the road, not looking 3 years down the road, but looking way down the road, and I think this is part of that, to make this sustainable for future. Thank you.
What kind of, is portfolio investment-wise is this in?
So this is with all of our other cash that is currently invested, and we're pretty restricted by state law on what it can be in, and so things like commercial paper and other typically low yield types of mechanisms, because they're also low risk.
So we're still making money on,
Any dollars that are sitting idle are being invested and yes, generating interest earnings.
and that is not anywhere into that fund. That's showing no interest into that fund.
So that's all going to the general fund, but what it does then is if that interest number exceeds drastically at year end, that helps to be part of that general fund equation that could lead to more dollars going into it next year.
So I'm sorry, you say that the capital reserve balance here, the interest reverts to the general fund and not to the capital reserve fund?
That's correct.
Is there a mechanism we can do to revert it to the capital reserve fund?
Well, so again, the capital reserve is not a separate standalone
Gotcha.
fund.
So
That's
you
why.
can't do that, okay.
Yeah.
But it will all go toward that final year-end cash compared to budget, which then will
So at the end of
allow-
the year, we can flip it over if we want to. Okay.
Thank you for all your hard work. That's a nice presentation.
Yeah, I would tend to want to do that too, Matt, so that we can look at the end of the year and go, we need to move, if it's at 3%, we need to move $30,000 into the million that's
Right.
in the capital reserve fund.
Cool.
Cool.
So the next item on the agenda was just an open placeholder for any potential citizen comments on this work session.
At this time, Carrie, do you want to come up?
Sorry, I missed your presentation. I first need to ask a question because I'm stupid. Capital means like hard things, right?
Turn the mic on real
The
quick.
mic on, please, Carrie. The little button back there, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm not sure if I understand what the term capital means. Does that mean like hard things you buy? So that's my first question.
So typically with citizen address, we take all citizen address and then we respond during our admin reports after the fact.
Okay, well, I'm going to assume this means hard structures of some sort, an expenditure of funds on things that last a long period of time, not on consumables, for example. So actually, I have a proposal for you, and I'm quite certain you'll say no, but I still wanted to at least present it to you. And it was presented some time ago under Jeff Mills. And Jeff Mills talked about placemaking and community identification and stuff like that. And right now, there seems to be a lot of interest both from businesses willing to donate their time and materials to property owners along major thoroughways in Colerain to create community signage. So what I would like you guys to consider doing is attributing $1 per resident in the township to go into a special fund that can go to each neighborhood to start the process that Mills talked about community branding. I mean, look what Northbrook did. Northbrook did a fabulous job. And if they had $1 each year to spend on projects like that, then you would get activation and you'd get more people engaged and it'd bring more people to the table. So I would suggest that we do a community kind of like development fund where each neighborhood, Groesbeck, you got Matt's group with Groesbeck, and you've got the Greater Northbrook group, and you have all these other neighborhoods, and if we give them $1 for each resident in their district and give them a project like developing signage for their community, copycat in Northbrook, developing themes and stuff like that, I think it would be a way to unite the community, unite neighborhoods, get people working together cooperatively, whether they hate you or they love you or they think that you're great or whatever, to work on projects together. And I think $60,000 a year is a pittance to do something proactive to develop communities and develop projects that will improve our community. So that's my proposal.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to speak? So I think we're good.
Real quick. Thank you, Dana, for me. My mic was off. So just a couple of quick responses. So when it comes to the budget process moving forward, different things like considerations, especially if there are requests from residents or residential groups, are things that I encourage you all to just keep in mind as we sit down and review the budget. When it comes to capital and what is capital, you all did adopt a capital budget policy. This was adopted a couple of years ago, and it outlines what constitutes a capital item. And really, there are three criteria that it has to meet in order to be considered capital. The individual item has to be more than $10,000. It must last for more than 5 years, and it must be tangible. So if paint on the wall is more than $10,000 and lasts more than 5 years, but isn't something tangible that you could count. So with that, and not seeing any other citizen comments, we did leave on the agenda room for executive session. And if that pleases the board, we could do that too if you think that's cleaner. So Scott is recommending that we would close this meeting and then open the next.
One until 7, can we?
It was advertised when we set the meeting agendas at the start of the year for 6 p.m. with all of our other meetings.
Okay, just asking.
I'll motion to adjourn the special meeting of the Board of Trustees.
I'll second.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Okay, so now we are going to start the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees, October 10th, and it is 6:23. So do we take attendance?
Ms. Orich?
Here.
Mr. Unger?
Here?
Mr. Waller?
Here.
So I would recommend that you all have a motion to amend the agenda to include executive session as the second item on the meeting agenda.
I motion that we amend the agenda to have executive session as the second item on the agenda, moving everything else down one click.
I'll second that.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Thank you, Board. And then I would recommend that the Board adopt a motion to go into executive session in accordance with Ohio Revised Code, Section 121.22G3, to discuss pending or imminent litigation.
I motion that we go into executive session for the reason detailed by Administrator Weckbach.
I'll second.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Do we need to detail who's going to be in executive session?
It's just regular staff.
Okay, regular staff, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, it's officially 7 o'clock. We're going to open the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees.
We've already done that.
You need an attendance?
Ms. Orich?
Here.
Mr. Unger?
Here?
Mr. Waller?
Here.
Okay, now we can stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And for our moment of meditation, since it is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, let's keep our prayers and thoughts for those people that have perished from breast cancer and the survivors and fighters. Keep our prayers that they stay strong and hopefully a cure. Thank you. And I love the fact that the police chief is wearing his pink on his badge.
Executive session.
Okay, Mr. Baker, we have some approval
So
of minutes.
Kathy, just real quick, we've returned from executive session. Nothing to report from
Nothing to
executive
report
session.
from executive session, sorry.
Yes, Board, I have a motion that the minutes from the meeting of September 26, 2023 be approved, please.
I motion that we approve the minutes from the September 26, 2023 meeting.
I'll second that.
Discussions?
None from me.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Thank you.
We're going to kick off the evening with Chief Cordy swearing in some new officers.
We're probably gonna have a couple little ones come up as well, so that's fine, right? Come on up, it's all good. All right, Board, before we have two of our newest officers, over here to my right, to your left, Officer Larry J. Cox III. Larry comes to us from Warren County Sheriff's Office, where he spent only a few months there, but he spent over 5 years with the Village of Lockwood Police Department. He's a graduate of Northwest High School, class of 2013. Larry, do you want to introduce who you brought with you?
Yes. So this right here is Tiffany J. Cox. This is my wife. That's my father right there, Larry J. Cox. Next one is Tina J. Cox, my mother. She's holding my son, John Robert. That's Caitlin Maston down there, soon to be Malloy. And then all the way down there at the end, that's Larry J. Cox IV. That's my son.
All right, and directly to my left, your right, is Melissa Abel. Melissa comes to us from the City of Springdale Police Department, where she spent 19 years and achieved the rank of corporal. Prior to becoming a police officer, Melissa attended Transylvania University, where she received a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology, and attended Cincinnati Bible College and Seminary, where she received her Master's of Arts in Counseling. Melissa, do you want to introduce who you brought?
Sure. This is my wife, Mindy. This is our oldest, Ray. My daughter, Avery. My son, Finn, and my daughter, Amanda.
You got your hands full. Oh, God. I love it. I'm enjoying them. I'm enjoying them. Yeah.
All right, so what we'll do is we'll stand over here real quick, please. Just have you two here, and then just fill in, you got it?
You look so handsome. Yes.
I'll go slow for you too, okay? All right. Don't worry. It's all right. Right hand. I state your name.
Larry J. Cox.
Do solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
that I will uphold
that I will uphold
the Constitution of the United States of America
the Constitution of the United States of America
and the Constitution of the State of Ohio
and the Constitution of the State of Ohio
and its bylaws.
and its bylaws.
I will abide by
I will abide by
the Colerain Police Department
the Colerain Police Department
mission and value statement,
mission and values statement,
code of ethics,
code of ethics,
rules and regulations,
rules and regulations,
police department policy and procedures,
police department policies and procedures,
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
of a police officer
of a police officer
in Fort Colerain Township,
in and for Colerain Township,
Hamilton County,
Hamilton County,
State of Ohio,
State of Ohio,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations.
Congratulate.
Sharing your family.
Thank you, Board.
Keep the
We'll-
character.
We'll step out real quick with these, with our officers and their families and just take a couple photos, and I'll be right back in. Thank you.
Well, congratulations and welcome to Colerain Township Police Department.
Thank you.
Yep, welcome aboard. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Seeing all the littles reminds me of my Parks and Rec days. Okay, board, our next presentation is going to be presented by Sean Creighton from the Great Parks of Hamilton County. He'll present to us an update on the West Region Blueway and Trail System.
Welcome, thanks for coming out.
Excited to hear what you got to say.
It was a hard act to follow, but I'll do my best here. I want to thank the trustees and the staff and the residents of Colerain for allowing me to come out and speak about the West Region Blueway and Trail System. My name is Sean Creighton. I'm a landscape architect and project manager with Great Parks. Who's advancing the slides? All right, yeah, next slide, please. Great. So there are two major components to the project scope. The two items are, so there's a Blueway component and a shared use trail. With the Blueway, we're looking at adding 4 to 5 new river access points along the Great Miami and Whitewater rivers, or modifications and improvements to existing river access points. Next slide. Great Parks has completed a comprehensive master plan and park and facility master plans in 2019 and 2020. We had quite a bit of public engagement as part of that process. And out of the process, we came out with 8 master plan priorities that are going to guide our improvements for the next 10 years. You see those 8 up here. 2 of those priorities that are most closely aligned with this project are building more trails, and that's trails of all kinds. Blueway trails are also trails. They're just on the water as opposed to on land. There are other components of the project that they're addressing some of the master plan priorities. Access to conservation areas. The project is going to take place in the Great Miami and Whitewater River corridors. Expanding access for all user ages and abilities is also a goal. And focusing on partnerships is also a huge component of the project. We're looking to partner with all the local municipalities, including Colerain Townships, and residents, local residents. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, community engagement is always a big part of our process at Great Parks, and this project's no different. So we've already had a public open house that took place in July for the project. That was held both in person and virtually. It was online for about a month, and we received over 500 responses to our online survey. Had about 70 people attend the public open house and got some really good feedback. We're continuing to work on the community engagement throughout the course of the project. We formed an advisory committee that is represented by local leaders from all the communities surrounding the study area, including Colerain Township. We also have public services such as the county engineering department represented. And we have stakeholder groups as well as part of the project, where we're focusing on getting specific pieces of information from those who probably care most about the project, including local businesses, recreation groups, environmental groups, things of that nature. We'll continue to have public engagement opportunities throughout the project. Next slide. So the study area again is, we're including north to south in Hamilton County from the Butler County line all the way down to the Ohio River. We're looking at the Great Miami River corridor again and the Whitewater River. There's, I think, about 25 miles on the Great Miami River and 9 on the Whitewater within Hamilton County that we're considering part of the study area. And we're looking for opportunities for new river access points for paddling, canoeing, and kayaking, as well as, again, a shared use trail that would run in the Great Miami River corridor only. And the goal there is to connect from the Butler County line all the way down to Shawnee Lookout. And I'll talk a little bit more about how that connects to other regional trails. Next slide, please. I'll give you a little more detail on the Blueway enhancements. Next slide. So we started out the process considering over 20 river access points on the Great Miami and Whitewater rivers. We're now down to the point where we have approximately 8 that we're considering. And in that process, we did a variety of different studies and looked for basically the best place to get either new or improved access. So the orange dots on the map are existing river access points. 2 of them are in Colerain Township. You're probably familiar with them, Heritage Park and Dravo.
Heritage.
Right. So we're considering the existing river access points in local community parks as part of the Blue Way system. Great Parks wants to really kind of take the lead on pushing this effort forward. But again, we need partners. So working with all the existing parks and communities is going to be huge. The blue dots that are on the map are other river access points that are still in consideration at this point. Again, we're trying to get down to 4 or 5 river access points that we will actually move forward with construction on, the first of which would be in 2025, and hopefully 1 additional river access point every year moving forward after that. The range of Blue Way access that we're looking at is pretty broad. Again, we want to provide experiences for all different types of people with all different abilities. So we're looking at everything from a very constructed facility that would allow us to get fully ADA accessible access to the water, where you might have a floating dock like the one you see in the top right picture. That type of facility is very difficult to put in on flowing water, so we'd be looking at still water, flat water to do an ADA access. So if any of you are familiar with Campbell Lakes, that would be a place that would be a good opportunity for that. Luckily, the Great Miami has a lot of lakes very adjacent to the waterways from the gravel mining, sand mining that's taken place. So the range from most constructed will go all the way down to what we're calling enhanced, what would be like a small improvement to the site to make it easier to get to the water, into the water, and then very natural type experience that we would do in an area where there's more sensitive natural resources, and it does not make sense to build roadways and very large constructed infrastructure. Next slide, please. So now I'll give you a little more detail on the shared use trail. The shared use trail, so again, the scope for this project is looking just within Hamilton County. Luckily, our neighbors to the north have already started a very successful trail system called the Great Miami Riverway, and that includes both paved trails, almost 99 plus miles actually included in that system. So some of it's paved trails, some of it is river access. So the Blue Way system, the shared use trail system north of here already exists and is providing great recreation opportunities and economic benefits to all the communities that are surrounding that system. So currently the system comes down through Dayton into Butler County and terminates in Fairfield. Fairfield does have plans to extend it to the county line, so that's where we would pick it up on the north. And again, we're looking to carry that all the way down to Shawnee Lookout in the very southwestern corner of the county, where the city already has plans to bring the Ohio River Trail west, which portions of that trail system are already built just west of the city. Eventually, there's plans to connect that out to Shawnee Lookout, so you would then have a connection down to the Ohio River in the southwest corner of the county that could take you back into the city at some point. So as part of the process, with all of the communities we've engaged, the residents and other stakeholder groups, we asked for input on assets that we should consider and try to connect to throughout our planning process. So you can see a pretty healthy list of items that we've collected already, broken down into different categories there. And you can see how they're spread across the west side of the county. Great Parks did their part in kind of trying to help to prioritize. You'll see there's like a blue, a yellow, and a pink there. Some of them are highlighted. So those are assets that we believe are high to low priority, and that was based on public access and public amenities, proximity to the main study area of the project, which again is the Great Miami River Corridor for the shared use trail. So connecting to something that is far out from the river corridor doesn't necessarily make as much sense. Again, the main priority is to get north to south in the river corridor. We're also looking at connections to other trail systems, but those will be secondary to the main spine of the trail system, which will run north to south in the river corridor. Next slide. To explain a little bit more about the trail system that I'm referring to, we're thinking of this as a braided network. So if you think of the trail system again as the main spine that'll run in the river corridor, and then connections to other assets, which might be population centers or local parks or other trail systems, maybe even businesses, that's the entirety of the system and the waterway itself. So paddling on the Great Miami and the Whitewater Rivers is part of the trail system. Some of the facility types that we're considering, you'll see in this image here, if you look closest to the water where you see kind of that meandering path, that would be considered a shared use trail, and a shared use trail is completely separated from the roadway. That would be the goal. That's kind of the most pleasurable experience, right? To be separated from vehicle traffic as much as possible. If you've driven on East Miami River Road along the Great Miami River Corridor or other roads in the valley there, you're familiar with the constraints that we're dealing with. So it's not always going to be possible to build a trail like that. In some conditions, we'll have to build what's called a side path. And again, that's kind of like, that will be a path that's adjacent to the roadway, but still physically separated. So there's a barrier between vehicles and pedestrians and cycles. Then the water trail is on the water itself. A cycle track would be kind of a less desirable condition. That's when you have an on-road facility, when the bicycle facilities are actually right on the roadway. There's still a physical barrier, like a vertical delineator or a curb or something of that nature. But you're closer to vehicle traffic. Less desirable, but there may be conditions where we have to deal with that. Other difficult conditions we might deal with using a boardwalk, which if there's a lot of steep slopes near the riverway and it's tight, we might need a boardwalk or to get to a river access point. We're also considering there are assets on both sides of the river, right? So wherever possible, we would make use of existing bridges to connect that infrastructure. If there's a really desirable asset in a community such as yourselves or Whitewater or Crosby says, like, I really want you to get to the core of our town, we might even consider a new bridge. So that's kind of the braided network in a nutshell. Next slide. So next steps, just to give you a general idea of where we're at in the project, we started at the beginning of 2023, January, February. We have, again, robust public engagement that's ongoing through the first quarter of next year. The shared use master plan and the Blueway master plan, we want them to inform each other. There's recreation opportunities, pedal paddle opportunities where you might pedal and then up to a spot, take a boat down or something of that nature. There are other communities that are doing that. It's very successful, exciting stuff. Yeah. So again, the goal is eventually to get construction going, and construction would start with the river access points before the shared use trail. So as soon as we get through concept, we nail down those 4 or 5 sites, we'll get into concept design, preliminary design for those 4 or 5 sites. And then we'll take it eventually into construction documents for whichever site we choose to be the first one, whichever site makes most logical sense. Start construction on that site in 2025. Next slide. So we have an advisory committee meeting coming up. Folks from Colerain will be attending that, and thank you to the folks in Colerain. You guys are hosting the next advisory committee meeting in your senior and community center right next door here, so we're looking forward to that. We've got more focus group meetings where we'll get into more specifics with the cyclists and the paddlers and the environmental groups, the businesses, all that stuff is next step. So I don't know if you guys have time for any questions or comments, but I'm happy to take some.
So I've done the Rentschler to Waterworks, so to connect Waterworks Fairfield, I know they had right there at River Road in Millis there, to connect that to Heritage. Would that be what you're talking about there, close to there?
I believe that their plan is to terminate right at or close to the county border. So that would be our starting point on the north end.
Okay.
And again, Great Parks is going through the planning and design studies We by no means think that we can construct the entire length of the shared use trail ourselves, right?
Yeah.
So we've got large parks on the west side of the county here, Miami Whitewater Forest, Shawnee
Right.
Lookout, Mitchell. So we've got a lot of land that we can work with. But there's space in between, obviously, so we're gonna need to partner to be able to put together good opportunities for grant funding and other funding opportunities to get this thing built.
Yeah, I talked to Denise Treehouse at Hamlin County, and she
She's
was,
a big advocate.
yes, she is on the bike trail, because I would love to bike trail from Dravo to Heritage, because that's a beautiful,
Oh, yeah,
that would be awesome right there.
for sure.
Yes, I'd love to see that.
Any other?
What, you mentioned there's a meeting at our senior center. When is that?
Thursday. It's 3:30 to 5:30 this Thursday.
Okay.
So, I believe Tawana Moulter's going to be there, so she sits on our advisory committee. And again, we've pulled people from all the other surrounding communities within the study area as well.
Thank you for coming out. I think it's a lot of exciting opportunities here. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I look forward to future progress.
All right, thank you, board. The next item on the agenda is citizens' address.
Okay, we're going to do citizens' address. We're going to try to hold very tightly to the 5-minute rule. And we really want to explain to you, this is a time where you can talk to us, but it's not a debate. It's not a forum to go back and forth. Any questions you have will be addressed in a trustee report or an administrative report when they find out the facts that we can answer your questions. Please refrain from any name calling or profanity. So the first person up, we're going to have Paul Hebler.
I'd like to thank you for letting me speak tonight. I've lived here in the township my whole life. I live on Aries Court, 3027. I'm a permanent resident. The thing that bothers me is like 2-3 years ago, you all started planting trees on Moreland, which is considered the Main Street Trail. I noticed signs leaving Myers and Stone Creek that you have these little placards, Main Street Trail. But then you get to Springdale, and yet we see nothing but a junkyard right behind the mayor's stop. They had Rumpke there and police there 3 times, loading up the yard, and yet they keep filling it back. The only thing that bothers me is the neighbors that live there. I live on Aries, which is like a mile away, but I go up and down that road 3-4 times a day. And I don't understand how that man can keep getting away with filling up the side yard, the front yard, and the whole backyard with junk and scrap. And it never seems to be addressed. I would just like to know what is going on. Why did we let that, yet we tow somebody that has an unfortunate flat tire in the yard? Flat tires don't bother me. But a yard and front and back filled with junk. I would just like to know what the update is. What the hell is going to be done? I can't imagine filling my yard up with junk and doing that to my neighbors. Yet this guy is just bring it on, whatever. That's my only question. Is anything going to be done? I know people have been kicked out and their house sold because vehicles in their yard and garbage. And this dude seems to get away with everything. That's my only question.
Okay, we'll answer that. Okay, thank you so much for coming
Thank you.
out. Okay, Scott Wilson.
Sorry, I didn't know I needed more than 3 of these.
That's fine. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So my name is Scott Wilson. I live on Rutherford Court here in Colerain Township. On September 18th, I received a call from one of my neighbors asking me if I got one of the notices about sidewalk damage. And so I told them no, I hadn't. And when I got home, I found out that one of our properties, we own 2 of the houses on that street, that I'd received one of these. And this is my notice right here. It has a date, the violation, and that's all it has on it, really, honestly, and his card that he left with me, I guess, to call if I had any questions, right? But on the first page you have there, that's a page of how many people have violations. There's 4 of us on the street that have violations. I put little stars by the houses who had those violations. If you look at the next page of the 6911, you notice he wrote 60 days to repair on this, but didn't date the notice at all. So there's that example for one of my neighbors. On the other neighbor, he 6750 Rutherford Court, driveway hazard, sidewalk hazard, and he gave him a sheet attached, which he did not give to the one neighbor or myself. We didn't get these sheets that were attached. And then the last neighbor at 6880, he actually called and he was given a sheet, and then the gentleman sent him a letter, which you can't read. I'm sorry about that. The letter you can't read. But then sent him all these pictures of the notice of the violation, and some pictures of which nothing really is. I mean, you're left to assume which is the damaged ones and which ones ain't a little bit. Nothing was marked at all as far as parts of the sidewalk that need to be repaired. My main problem with this is there was a lot of inconsistency in the way he did his reporting, which I don't appreciate that very much at all, because if you're going to do your job, do it right. Let us know which sidewalk, because obviously from my notice, I have no idea which ones he was referring to. I'm just left to assume that I'm going to look at them and know which ones they are at this point. And my problem, I guess, the main problem I have is it's kind of hypocritical, because if you look at the next set of pictures, that's our street. And I've put arrows. There's grass growing up. There's potholes. The street is sinking on one of the grates. It's sinking in the street. It was sinking in the grass, and Hamilton County actually fixed that, but said that the responsibility of the grate inside the grate itself is not their responsibility, and somebody else would have to fix that. And I guess that's why the street is sinking. You can see there's lines through the streets, places missing, and so it's in really bad repair. And the last time that I remember that the street got repaired, I believe I was living in my parents' home. They're one of the original owners on the street. That was back when I was high school, and I'm 58 right now. So I find it a tad bit hypocritical for somebody to complain about sidewalks when the street's looking like this also. I'm not here to say we don't want to fix our sidewalks, okay? Please don't get me wrong. But we got some other issues, because in the last picture that I showed you, this is a house that the gentleman died. I don't know if it went through probate yet, but you can see a gutter hanging off. You can see weeds growing up, a board that's been in front of this house. And in the back, you see a swimming pool that hasn't been fixed, and I can't tell you how many years, and Hamilton County has to come put a chemical dump in it for mosquitoes. So again, I think the sidewalks, compared to all these other issues, is minor, but all I'm asking for is, we're not saying we don't want to fix our sidewalks, okay? We will. The one guy got an estimate of $2,500, and the one gentleman already repaired his. He's got more money than he's got sense, and he spent $15,000 on a whole brand new driveway, which none of the rest of us have. So I'm asking for more time, I guess, because I would tell you right now, this compliance officer will have no problem coming back in 60 days and probably writing us a ticket or a citation for not having these sidewalks repaired. And that's all I'm asking for, is for more time for us to be able to look. I mean, we just came out of COVID, and everything that we buy is more expensive. We're going into Christmas, and COVID is up on the uprise again. We don't know the uncertainty of how that's going to affect. But, we just need more time to do these repairs is all I'm asking for, really, is on behalf of all our neighbors. So, thank you
so much. Okay. Carrie Davis. I'm just surmising that's yours.
I'm so freaking excited about the park, Blue Wave. It leans into what I was talking about 2 weeks ago about us changing residential property to commercial property and appreciation of how scenic and gorgeous and beautiful it is. So it was really cool when I saw the agenda and thought, oh, I'm not alone. This is a treasured area, and we should be very careful about what we approve going in. And so I think our work starts 2 weeks ago, and knowing that this project is coming and what we all know it's going to be able to bring to Colerain Township, the unique activities. I don't know if you read their brochure about possibly creating nature centers at these outlets, you know, to the river, the canoeing that they want to bring, the science that'll be going on. It's all kinds of things are going to be wrapped up. I just picture Dravo as a huge campground with a concert going on at night after somebody takes their canoe trip down from Heritage. But we have so much to do in preparation for it, and I think we need to be real careful about what we are allowing to happen along that riverway, knowing that this opportunity is coming and we're going to be scored on whether or not we get the funding or it goes on the other side of the river to another township. So it sounds like with this guy, I'm just going to mention this, it seems to me when we have an officer going out there and he's checking things for sidewalks, maybe we could start doing a full street assessment or even a certain range, and we solve all the problems. Because why do we want them to tear up their sidewalks when we might have to tear up their roads and we might have to tear up their aprons to get in to repair the streets? So it seems kind of backwards, but I have a more vulgar word for it. But out of respect for your request, I just think we should be looking at it collectively, because it is stupid to make them fix the sidewalk if they're going to end up coming in and having to replace it all because the road is apparently caving in. So I think you should develop something that does the whole street and cites everybody at the same time. Let's get everybody mad and make everybody fix their property one street at a time.
Thank you. Okay. John Hendry?
Good evening.
John Hendry, 3628 Semlo Avenue, Cincinnati. Can I approach?
Sure. I'll do it for you. Thank you.
I guess, thank you for your time, and I'd kind of hoped I wouldn't have to do this again. But on Tuesday, 25 July, the Township Trustees voted 3-0 to reject zoning application ZA 2023-08 to change the property at 3636 Semlo, formerly Our Lady of the Woods, from R5 residential to PDM plan development mixed use as an independent living and to institutional living. The property in question is at the end of Semlo Avenue, immediately abuts residential homes on Semlo and Reilly Roads and the St. James Cemetery, and it's also within 200 feet of the ball fields that St. James uses it for their facility for the kids at school. That facility was originally established as a religious community and remained a religious nonprofit up until its sale to private individuals in August of 2020. Okay, just received a letter that from the township that, and it's referenced BZA 2023-14, that the owners of the property are applying for a variance to zoning R5, seeking approval to change from
use from multifamily to institutional housing. Several residents of Semlo have testified before the trustees at the time of the rejection of the zoning request. I'm not going to take up your time with going through that litany, okay? But I will, however, quote some parts of the Colerain Township zoning resolution approved in March of 2022. If you look at Article 7, Section 1, Subsection 2, R5 is suburban high residential district, states in part, it's intended for the protection of older existing neighborhoods and single-family homes. All right? Semlo Avenue is over 80 years old. They're small homes that are family starter homes, essentially, so it gives people just getting started a place to get going and start building their families. And the St. James community is over 180 years old. All right? So if we look at the Article 7, Section 2, subsection 5, the numerical reference, the following uses are specifically rejected in R5: adult homes, larger residential facilities, institutional housing, multifamily dwellings. The initial use of the property as a religious community and a religious nonprofit was allowed as it closely fit within the culture of our community, all right, years ago, okay? And this is a rhetorical question I'm asking for a friend. My question is, please consider how are we to protect our older neighborhoods and communities if R5, which specifically rejects those uses, is allowed? Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Kathy Hendery? And I guess you're 3628 Semlo also.
3628 Semlo, Kathy Hendry. I'd like to put the copy of the letter that we received into the record. If we
Sure.
could.
Thank you.
I kind of feel like it's a workaround of what we fought against here. And I'd want to understand how we got to this point that a zoning appeals board can override the decision that makes putting institutional housing a possibility after our 3 elected officials have unanimously voted against it. And in my attendance at that meeting, I got that you were voting against the institutional housing along with the multi-use. Someone at zoning today, when I was there getting more information, said that you only voted on the multi-use. I don't know if that's correct or not, but that's what I was told. So we have a non-elected group that gets to make this final decision. Colerain Township needs to listen to the residents, and we need to find a way to make this be appropriate for where we are in the township. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Ned Hager-Brem?
Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak this evening. Many in Colerain Township know me from my 2 decades plus of service at the Groesbeck branch of the Public Library of Cincinnati and Hamilton County. I'm here tonight, however, not as a public servant, but as a private citizen to urge the voters of Colerain Township to support the library's levy this coming election day. And I want to just take a little bit of time here to brag on the library. Hamilton County is blessed with a truly excellent public library. It is one of the largest, busiest, and best-ranked libraries in the nation. It serves over 800,000 residents with over 400,000 active library cards. There are a total of 41 locations and a distribution center that serve all of Hamilton County. The library has one of the largest collections in the nation with 5.7 million items and provides access to 220 databases and electronic resources. And with a library card, you can check out materials from the entire state. Last year, there were 17.5 million checkouts of library materials, and that makes me feel positive about the state of civilization in a time when it's hard to feel positive about it. There were 3.1 million visits to library locations across the county. There were 500,000 computer sessions and 1.5 million Wi-Fi sessions. Families attended over 5,000 story times. 150,000 books were delivered to seniors through deliveries directly to long-term care facilities, which I think is really valuable. 3,000 sets of books were provided to teachers and home educators for use in their classrooms. The library's meeting rooms and study rooms were booked 40,000 times by individuals, community organizations, and businesses. 300,000 meals were served to children. The library provides safe and productive community spaces for all ages. Don't believe what you read in the paper. It's a more complicated story. It provides free computer access, free Wi-Fi, free faxing, and document scanning and printing. Students receive homework help and tutoring, use library spaces to do their homework, and participate in summer activities to fight the summer slide. Job seekers attend workforce development training and apply for jobs, and new hires complete training and orientations, which are increasingly done online before they even arrive at work. Small businesses and entrepreneurs use the library's dynamic maker spaces and grants and foundation resources. And I should add that Colerain Township is home to 2 library branches, with Groesbeck, I can't help but bragging on the one I work at, being the most heavily used in the entire county. 225,000 people visited those 2 branches this past year and checked out over 319,000 books and other materials. Unlike other Ohio counties, Cincinnati and Hamilton County has one public library system that serves the entire county and all of its residents. And as a result, it provides a very good bang for your buck, in my opinion. The library has a history of being fiscally responsible, controlling costs, stretching operating dollars, and managing finances responsibly. Unlike many other large libraries, the library has no debt. The library's financial reporting has received the Award of Distinction from the State Auditor and has received the Government Finance Officers Association Certificate of Achievement, easy for me to say, for 29 straight years in a row. With the library, voters know what they're going to get for their money and that it will be used responsibly. The library is currently working to improve all 41 locations over 10 years. Thus far, 14 projects have already been completed with $90 million invested directly in the community. The library is an important and valued community resource. It's committed to maintaining high-quality facilities and services for all residents throughout Hamilton County. 57% of the library's funding comes from the state, and 43% comes from 2 local libraries. However, in recent years, state funding for libraries has not proven to be a reliable or stable funding source. If the levy passes, it will renew library funding for this levy for an additional 10 years. But if it fails, half the library's local funding would be lost. And renewal of the levy will allow the library to continue to provide excellent service that I believe Hamilton County needs and deserves. Thank you so much for the time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wonderful facts. Wonderful facts.
Thank you. We should be very proud.
Should be. Okay, anybody else that didn't fill one out, or citizen address that we might have missed? Okay, well, that concludes our citizens address. Now we go to administrative reports.
Yes, thank you, Board. While I pull that up, I'll ask that Chief Alan Walls come to the podium for first administrative reports.
Good evening to the board.
Good evening, Chief.
Those of you in attendance this evening and those online. For the September 2023 incident activity, we had 832 EMS incidents. We had 201 fire incidents. We made 38 responses into the Pleasant Run EMS contract area. And we made 2 runs into the West College Hill Golfway EMS contract area. We had a building fire in the 6900 block of Ripple Road, $40,000 loss. One in the 2400 block of Alcrest with a $10,000 loss. One in the 3400 block of Alamosa with a $5,000 loss. And another in the 2400 block of Garrison with a $50,000 loss. Total property value lost was $105,000, but property value saved was $1.2 million. We have a 94.08% save rate for 2023 in respect to property lost and saved. Our average response time for the arrival of the first unit was 5 minutes and 17 seconds, and first unit on the scene less than 6 minutes was 72.65%. And that is my administrative report.
Well, we can tell everybody we broke ground, we're breaking ground, and our time will be?
That station should be open in August of 2024.
And our reaction time?
So we will increase our ability to reach residents within 4 minutes by 750%.
So, yes, the township's Facebook page, I believe the fire department's Facebook page, there should be a live stream of it, as well as photographs. So tonight was a big deal. It was no less than probably 2 decades in the making, from conceptualization to the acquirement of property to groundbreaking tonight. So a big deal for the township residents and businesses.
And I was not aware that we were Facebook Live, or I would have done my hair a little better. So.
Ow.
Chief, if Jeff, if we could go back to the ones that are fire run data. So sometimes statistics are just statistics, and sometimes there's a trend. What do we have going on here in your opinion? Because it's angling up. Is it a seasonal thing, or?
Honestly, every year we see an increase of somewhere between 4 to 6%, and I think we're just seeing that incremental increase this year. That's probably going to put us at that 4 to 6% increase from last year. So, and as we see there, we're looking at 2018 to 2023. It's just a sign of the times. We're not getting slower; we're getting busier.
Is there anything that citizens can do to avoid seeing you? I know that's probably the wrong way to put it, but to avoid these there's not really a trend. I know, for instance, Thanksgiving, you're pretty busy with people trying to fry their turkeys outside.
Inside.
Inside the garage with the garage door closed, yeah.
Sometimes they do a little more than fry them, literally. Have working smoke detectors, first and foremost. Have a carbon monoxide alarm detector in your home as well. And, always be vigilant of embers and such from outdoor fireplaces or even indoor fireplaces that you may put in the back deck or in the backyard in a pan or what have you. So, working smoke detectors, carbon monoxide alarm detectors.
And if you could maybe speak a little bit to the Keep the Door Closed initiative that you guys pushed through hard. PSAs.
Yes, and some of you have probably seen those pictures, the difference between a door being open versus a door being closed. So it's the idea of close before you doze. So there could be a significant fire in a residence down the hallway. However, if you're sleeping with your door closed, it provides a tenable space, and oftentimes you would never know that on the other side of that door was a fire that had been extinguished.
Okay, so there was, on your website, it's Fire Prevention Week between October 8th and the 14th on your social media, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So there's some of those tips.
There you go. Thank you. Thank you for your hard work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you to our residents and businesses for the support to be able to do what we did at 5 o'clock tonight.
Yes.
All right, the next administrative report will be given by Police Chief Ed Cordy.
Welcome, Chief.
Thank you. For the month of September, the police department responded to 3,866 calls for service. That is 129 calls per day. We are still on pace for just about 44,000 calls for service for the year. We conducted 325 traffic stops, massive increase for us. We had 4 OVI arrests and made 100 arrests. And we had 3 uses of force, 1 strike, 1 OC, and 1 taser deployment. We did not have any pursuits, and we had 1 internal investigation. Just breaking down some numbers for code enforcement again, we had 103 total violations, 336 inspections. We closed 56 violations, referred 4 to housing court, and had a total of 34 abated properties. There was 28 maintenance violations. Henry had 3 litter complaints, 45 abandoned vehicles, 27 parking complaints, 15 solicitors on the side of the roadway, and communicated with the public on 51 times. Our impact stats: impact alone conducted 41 traffic stops, signed 4 felony charges, 8 misdemeanor, closed 8 felony warrants and 6 misdemeanor warrants. They seized 249.2 grams of marijuana, 70.7 grams of meth, 7 grams of fentanyl, 2 grams of cocaine, while assisting the road units with 65 details or calls for service. The impact team and patrol officers assisted the DEA with recovering 4.5 pounds of cocaine. During the month, we're at the same place as we were last month for our hiring. We're at 63 officers with 2 cadets. That does not count the one that is retiring at the end of this month. So we're still looking for 5 additional officers. We did just receive word within the last week that we once again got our grant for our vests. So we will. That's an unknown amount at this time because it's at a cap, and you have to apply for reimbursement for it. So we're not. It's somewhere usually in the neighborhood of $50,000 to $60,000. Just some good news for the police department and a community event that we're doing tomorrow. We are taking place in a Welcome Back Carson event. That's tomorrow at 5 p.m. on Sunbright Drive. We are working in conjunction with the Help Squad and Iron, I can't even read my handwriting, Iron Sharpens Iron Community Care, two 501c3s that are working with the West family to provide for him. Those that aren't aware, this is a student that was involved in an accidental shooting, and we're trying to bring him back home. He's been out of town for the last 6 months. So we're here for that.
Awesome.
Chief, if I could back you up for just a second, did you say 70 grams of
70
fentanyl?
grams of methamphetamine, yep.
Fentanyl?
7 grams of fentanyl.
7 grams of fentanyl. 4.5 pounds of cocaine?
Yes, that was a controlled purchase through, with assistance with the DEA.
Okay. So that was all one.
Yeah, that was one big one.
One big drug.
Yeah, and we
Okay.
got him locked up?
Oh, yeah.
All right, good job.
And while you're up there, we have, the police department is starting October 16th, Stuff a Cruiser.
Stuff the cruiser?
Yes, we're collecting canned goods for Sun Ministries and Taylor Elementary, and it can, all those non-perishables can be dropped off at the police station,
Police
correct?
department, and we'll stuff the cruiser for you.
Okay.
Yep.
And also, you have a police department open house, October 21st, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m.
Yes.
Okay, just letting
Quite a few different events that's going on there. We'll have always everyone's favorite, the canines will be there, including our brand new canine that just got out of training last month.
Ghost.
And Ghost is his name. And we'll have a couple different events going on, sure.
Okay.
I believe, just from talking to you earlier today, you all are going to be involved in trunk or treats and different things like that out in the community too.
Yeah, so we actually have 2 of them. I think it's Thursday, Friday. So it's I think it's the 26th and the 27th. YMCA on the 26th and the 27th is Colerain Elementary.
Okay.
So please stop and say hello to our officers at those events and try to get out to the open house. I know that's always a fun event to walk through the station and get to learn more about the inner operations of the department.
It is. Thank you.
Anything else? Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, next up, Assistant Administrator Tiffany Mays.
Hello.
So for the month of September, we are gaining traction on our park visits. Looks like we're hoping to surpass 2022 numbers. So we're at a total of 211,000 visits so far this year. And hopefully with the good weather we're supposed to have this week, we'll bump that up a little bit more. Bags of litter and trash, we're again exceeding our goal. We might want to reconsider looking at that for 2024. And then finally, I have just an update on our road program. If I can take a brief moment to read some of our numbers here. So we are about 65% complete with our road program. Milling and intermediate course have been completed on all streets. On the streets of Butterwick, Penarth, Wilson, Newmarket, and Klondike, the curb work is complete with this, and catch basins are also complete. And you'll find that they're adjusting the manholes right now in those areas. A total of almost 18,000 feet of curb work has been completed. And this portion of the project should be completed by the end of this month. Hopefully with the continued good weather, that'll get us there at the end of the month. And lastly, the Cape Sealing program, which the board just recently approved, will begin in spring of 2024. Any questions?
Thank you for the update on the
My pleasure.
construction projects. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Board. And then David Miller from our Development Department will provide an update as well.
Welcome, sir.
Good evening, Board. Planning and Zoning, development's been really busy for September. We had 2 cases before our Board of Zoning Appeals, 0 for our Zoning Commission. We're actually going to be having 4 cases at this next Zoning Commission meeting. And then I think we're at 4 or 5 for BZA coming up for October. We had 9 commercial certificates for a few items such as change of use and signage. And then residential, again, very busy. 15 new single-family homes are under construction. We had 5 solar projects and then 21 other certificates such as decks and sheds and fences. So a lot going on there. Any questions?
Thank you, David.
Can we address the overture about the BZA over what we agreed?
I was going to talk about that. Yep.
Okay. Sorry, didn't know whose department. Sorry.
All right, board. So for my administrative report, really exciting day today with the groundbreaking, which you all were at. But even more exciting to me was what happened on this past Saturday. We had our annual Give Back Day, where we saw a tremendous outpouring of support from neighbors just going out and helping their neighbors. So we were across a number of different sites throughout the community. Some were some smaller scale residential projects. I think I saw Chief Cordy out there doing some concrete work like he always does. Some were larger scale. So there's a group that's trying to open a new after-school teen center to provide them with some alternative things to do after school to keep them engaged and doing great things. And so there was a lot of painting work going out there. I know I saw some reps from the school district at that property. The YMCA got some help. So there were just some awesome projects all throughout the community for Give Back Day. In total, we had over 170 volunteers, which is an incredible number to pull together all for one day of giving. So that was great, and huge kudos to PWC with Ron Henline for helping to organize that, as well as Will Mueller from our fire department. I think Ron and Will one day were having a conversation, and this sort of idea came about, and now we're 7 years into the program, which is fantastic. So wanted to share that with everybody. And then when it comes to some of the things that were brought up today, speaking a lot about first the Laura Linda property, there has been a lot of trash that has accumulated. It was declared a nuisance by you all, and it has been abated by the township on more than one occasion. When we go through and abate it, there is a process that's set up by the state of Ohio. It's very rigid because property rights are very important per the Constitution of the United States. And so we go through that process, we get out there and we abate it, and then we assess those property taxes after the fact. So once we're done, whatever bill we receive from the company, as well as the time for our staff to be out there, will get billed to that property owner. But unfortunately, with the way that some of these things work, property taxes aren't immediate. So that property owner probably won't be seeing those bills until next year, just given the nature of how that works. When it comes to different sidewalk issues and things on Rutherford Court, that is helpful information to have. At the end of the day, our code enforcement team is focused on obtaining compliance, and so I know that they try to work with individuals on their timelines, and having a timeline is really a critical piece to moving forward to ensure that some of this work can get done. As we know, concrete work in the middle of winter is usually not the best time, so I'd encourage anyone to reach out to our code team, and they'll continue to have those conversations. And then I'd been hearing in the zeitgeist about Semlo and some of the items there. Unfortunately, the way that the zoning code is structured, this board and their oversight is really in the appointees to that board. So you all do have that opportunity annually to appoint one appointee and usually an alternate or two. Beyond that, though, they are a quasi-judicial board. And so what that means is whatever decision they make is ultimately appealed directly to the court system. It does not go to the trustees. And so you all probably won't have a direct say in this request for a variance. And so just wanted to make sure that that was understood, just given the way that zoning laws are written across the state of Ohio and our own local zoning code. So just wanted to share that with you and anybody who's watching that may have questions as to why this is going on. And at the end of the day, any property owner can submit for variances or zone changes at any time. We can't control if they submit it. We control how we react to it and how we put them through the process that is preordained and pre-established. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you all have, or we can move to trustee reports.
We've had Laura Linda in housing court several times.
It did go through that process as well.
Yeah, so it does take a while. We are aware of the situation.
And there have been times that we've gone out and cleaned up the property, and it gets back to the way it is, and then we
Starts
go
over again,
through
right.
the process that we can again, and
Isn't that the one where his mother owns it?
Yes, mother owns it, yeah, and so, no. We are working on it, though. Anything?
Is that it, Jeff?
that's it for me. Yep.
Okay, then we'll go to the trustee report, so.
I'll take it, and I'm really short today.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah, let me just echo Mr. Weckbach's comments on the Simla project. I haven't looked at yet the entire variance request, but seemingly the selected board has decided on that, and certainly that would be important in the discussion with the BZA. The Veterans Dinner coming up November 30th was probably my favorite event of all 4 years being here. And some of the ideas that other people had, as usual, I kind of like, oh, I don't know if that's going to go over, and it was fantastic. Just sharing the veteran stories, and it means a lot to me personally, and I know I know for the other two trustees as well. I'm not speaking out of turn, to be able to serve our veterans, just if anything, one meal. It just is a symbolic gesture of giving back, and I appreciate that. And the Colerain Give Back Day was fantastic. I have done other things with people working cooperatively through raising money for veterans to go out to their homes. And I know Elder High School has done a number of things with PWC. It's just incredible, an incredible organization. So with all that said, that's it.
Thank you, Kathy. Those who regularly watch this meeting know that I give out my personal cell phone number quite a bit, which is 513-404-3057, and that does lead to quite a few calls. One was up on, just to show you what kind of stuff we hear up here as trustees, up on Springdale Road, a man who's very concerned about the outdoor dog in a unsheltered cage next door. I actually stopped out and talked to him Sunday. I've got a request from a resident in the Sturgeon-Mansalona area that they would, we would consider putting some speed bumps on Sturgeon, and I know there's a process to do that, and so maybe tomorrow you can get me the paperwork so I can get it to that resident so they can get started on that. But I hear what you're saying, and I know there's some issues over there, and some of it's with off-road vehicles, and there is a process for that. I also got a call, and any of us that live in Hamilton County probably got their new property valuation, and I'm interested in having the auditor come buy me out for what he has assessed, or what she has assessed my property at. I've never contested it, but I'm pretty stunned, but so you know, that's not anything this board controls. That is the auditor. We have lost a marvelous community member, a guy named Tim Heather. He has been an attorney in the area for his whole career. He has passed the way too young age of 68, and it's my understanding that he also did some legal work for our Colerain Historical Society. His funeral is this coming Saturday. May Tim Heather rest in peace. About a month ago, we had three residents here talk about another resident on Memory Lane that had some dogs that were pretty out of control, and I spoke to one of those residents 2 days ago, and that seems like it's really going to be under control, and I think that the lady's actually moving out, which would be the best thing that could happen in that case. And as Administrator Weckbach said, the business on Rutherford, and for those that couldn't see it, yes, it looks like we issued one and didn't put a date on it. That's just a clerical error on the part of our excellent code enforcement officer who does really good work. And I understand what you're saying about the condition of the street, and in my travels, I will go over. It's been a little while since I've been on Rutherford, but I will personally go take a look at it. Thank you to the library gentleman that was here, and the Main Street Trail. Right before we opened that and dedicated it a few years ago, my wife and I went out and walked it, and I know there was some problems over by where the Olive Garden is with some trash along there, and I know we got out and remediated that. It sounds like it's time to walk the Main Street Trail again. It's been a little while since I've done that, but Are you familiar with the property where the junk is, or is our code enforcement familiar with that?
With the junk
Yeah,
accumulation?
the gentleman who came up
Yes,
and,
yes.
so what's the status on that, or I guess you need to look that up?
Yeah, I mean, we can certainly look that up.
Okay, yeah, and we will, none of us are any fan of that type of property maintenance, so we will certainly thank you for bringing that to our attention. And I think that's about it, Kathy.
Okay. Well, some more good news with Colerain Township. We are working with the YMCA to adopt a senior drive. There is 150 seniors in need. You can donate items, gloves, hats, towels, toiletry, or gift cards. November 1st is the drop-off location here at the Colerain Senior Center and at the Clifford YMCA. And congratulations to our Administrator Jeff Watbuck on being chosen as our Regional Vice President for the ICMA, which is an international organization for local government professionals. He was just sworn in last week, and we're so proud of his accomplishment. And another wonderful thing we're doing in Colerain Township is there's a car seat giveaway, and it is October 14th, next Tuesday, I believe, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Joseph Toyota? The 14th, sorry, wrong, I can't read this 14th Saturday, yes it is. Okay, so there's 40 car seats, so it's first come, first serve. And one or two rumors that have been circulating out there that I want to dismay. When we are looking for this police levy, somebody said that we already pay Hamilton County. Those Hamilton County fees on our taxes are for the courthouse and our jail. We get no patrol from Hamilton County, so this is not a redundancy. And also, if the police levy does fail, we are not getting rid of our pickleball courts. So, two rumors that are wrong. Thank you.
Thank you, Board. Next on the agenda is new business, and the first items are public safety, which will be presented by Police Chief Ed Cordy.
Good evening. Item A, resolution declaring nuisance and ordering abatement. This resolution allows for the removal of uncontrolled vegetation and refuge at the following properties: 11888 Lick Road, 2858 Overdale Drive, 8876 Planet Drive, 2450 Springdale Road, and 2686 Wheatfield Drive. Recommend adoption of the resolution.
I motion that we adopt a resolution declaring nuisance and ordering abatement at the properties detailed by Chief Cordy.
I'll second.
Any discussions?
What is 2450 Springdale? Is that near what we're talking about with the junk?
No. 2450 should be almost over towards the eastern part of our
Right.
jurisdictional line, so east of Springdale, or I'm sorry, of
Hamilton.
Pippin.
East, no,
East of Springdale and Pippin.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
for-
it must be right over at the edge then.
Yes.
So where you're talking about is,
2300
I know where you're talking about. I just wasn't familiar with what the street number was right there. No other questions on this item from me.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Item B, resolution declaring a junk motor vehicle at 8599 Sunlight Drive. One vehicle at this property. It's a 2013 red Cadillac ATS.
I'll motion to declare a junk motor vehicle on 8599 Sunlight Drive.
I will second it. No discussion from me.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Item C, resolution declaring a junk motor vehicle at 9721 Gibraltar Drive. One vehicle at this property. It's a 2010 black Toyota Corolla. Recommend adoption.
I motion that we would approve the resolution declaring the vehicle located at 9721 Gibraltar Drive as a junk motor vehicle.
I'll second.
None.
None.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Item D, resolution declaring a junk motor vehicle at 3126 Lapland Drive. One vehicle, it's a 2010 red Ford Fusion. Recommend adoption.
I'll motion to adopt a resolution declaring a junk motor vehicle on 3126 Lapland Drive.
I'll second it.
No discussion.
None.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Item E, resolution declaring a junk motor vehicle at 5405 West Kemper Road, one vehicle, a 1986 white Ford box truck. Recommend adoption of the resolution.
A motion that we approve the resolution declaring the vehicle located at 5405 West Kemper Road as a junk motor vehicle.
I'll second.
Discussion?
None.
None.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Item F, resolution declaring a junk motor vehicle at 10772 Invicta Circle, one vehicle, a 2006 white Chevy Impala. Recommend adoption.
I'll motion to adopt a resolution declaring a junk motor vehicle at 10772 Invicta Circle.
I'll second it.
No discussion?
None.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Item G, resolution declaring a junk motor vehicle at 10865 Penrith Drive, one vehicle on the property, 2009 gray Honda Pilot. Recommend adoption of the resolution.
Needs a motion?
I'm trying to catch up on my screen.
I'll motion to declare a junk motor vehicle on 10865 Penrith Drive.
There it is. I second it.
No discussion?
None.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Vehicle number 7, resolution declaring a junk motor vehicle at 11467 Pippin Road. Two vehicles on this property, 2008 silver Ford Explorer and a 1999 black trailer, unknown make and model. Recommend adoption.
I motion we approve the resolution declaring the junk motor vehicles at 11467 Pippin Road as described by the chief.
I'll second. No discussion?
None.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Last item I have for you, item I, motion to issue a noise resolution permit to St. John the Baptist. This request is a noise permit for St. John the Baptist and their school fundraiser. This event will take place on November 11th between the hours of 6 p.m. and 11 p.m. Recommend adoption of the motion.
Oh. Motion to issue a noise resolution permit to St. John the Baptist for 11/11/23.
I'll second.
Any discussions?
I'm going to abstain.
Okay.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Abstain.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Board. The next item on the agenda tonight will be presented by David Miller from the Development Department.
Welcome back.
Thank you, sir. So tonight, this is a motion to set a public hearing for October 24th at 7 p.m. for Zoning Commission Case ZA 2023-12. It is a zoning text amendment to prohibit recreational marijuana. So what we're doing, we had, at our last meeting, we had proposed a public hearing for tonight on this particular text amendment, and so we're postponing it to the next one, which would be October the 24th, and recommendation is for passage.
I'll motion to set a public hearing for October 24th, 2023 at 7 p.m. for Zoning Commission Case ZA 2023.12, zoning text amendment to prohibit recreational marijuana.
I'll second. Discussion.
And none. We're just setting the public hearing at this
Setting a
point.
public hearing. Okay.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Thank you, David. All right, Board, the next item is in the Administration Department. So in late 2022, we had a transformer go out at the Colerain Township Training Center. So that's located on Old Colerain out in the western portion of the township. This is where our Cincinnati State Paramedic Program and other programs that are housed by our fire department occur. In evaluating the cost to repair, we realized quickly that it was going to be very significant and very challenging for us to do that. So we went out and sought some alternatives, and one alternative was to remodel the existing underutilized space in our basement. At the time that we started that conversation, we began to discuss with other departments about their needs and realized that if we do this the right way, we could actually build out some functional space for the police department that would allow them to start to secure some APATA classes, which would then lead to some revenue generation for the township. In reviewing these documents, we reached out to a local group, that KBC Construction, and they developed some plans for us. Those plans are now complete, and so our request is that the board would consider a motion authorizing an RFP for 4200 Springdale Road basement remodel. And I would recommend adoption of that motion, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you all may have.
I motion that we approve allowing the administrator to issue an RFP for 4200 Springdale Road basement remodel.
I'll second. Any discussions?
What's the timeline on that?
So from a timeline standpoint, RFPs are going to be due back to the township on November 3rd. My intent is to have a recommendation before you all at the Board of Trustees meeting in November for potential adoption. Should that be approved, given that this is all interior work and there's relatively easy access to the basement for contractors, they could begin work at any point after that occurs, once they're able to secure permits and get their contractors lined up. So thankfully, this is one that might be able to happen most of the winter, and once we complete the project, which that still remains to be seen, we can then start to have a strategic decision about the long-term direction of the training center, whether or not we keep that property, sell that property, or something else.
If you look down in our basement now, it looks like a war went through it still from our water.
It is getting very close to back to.
Okay.
Yes.
No other discussion from me.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Thank you, Board. And the next item is probably my favorite item of the year, which is a motion establishing trick-or-treat hours from 6 to 8 p.m. on October 31st, 2023. Annually, you all set these. Different neighborhoods can certainly do their own things as they please, but these would be the official hours for the township. This is consistent with most other communities in the region and is near and dear to my heart as an avid Halloween fan, so I would recommend adoption of the motion.
I motion that we establish trick-or-treat hours from 6 to 8 p.m. on October 31st, 2023.
I'll second that. Any discussion?
I'll waive my usual smart comments about your involvement, Mr. Weckbach, so I have no other comments.
Just a safety, just everybody watch out for trick-or-treaters.
Watch out for trick-or-treaters.
Yes, I can't do that enough.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Thank you, Board. And the next item will be presented by Assistant Administrator Tiffany Mays.
Welcome back.
Thank you. And the next item is a motion authorizing the Township Administrator to execute a contract and related documents with Clippard Family YMCA for the LISC Game On Community Places to Play grant. This information can be found on page 54 of your agenda packet. In collaboration with the Clippard Family YMCA, staff applied for and successfully received a $50,000 grant from the Local Initiative Support Corporation, or LISC for short, and Dick's Sporting Goods for the construction of a full-court outdoor basketball complex at the Blanchetta vacant FEMA lots. This motion will allow the administrator to manage the grant process with the YMCA in an efficient manner throughout the time of the project. This project is estimated to cost $100,000 in total and will include a full court with 6 nets and parking. The YMCA will program the space in the summer months and will be open to the public all other times. Staff recommendation is an adoption of the motion.
I motion that we authorize the Township Administrator to execute a contract and related documents with Clippard Family YMCA for the LISC Game On Community Places to Play grant.
I'll second. A discussion, is that the floodplain area that these houses were bought out and this vacant land now, correct?
Yes, specifically the area where the multi-complex was located.
Okay, excellent for that area there.
So since it does frequently flood, are there going to be some, I guess, some construction of the courts? Can the water hurt the courts if it floods frequently, or?
No, and that's why we we wanted to program the area in a specific way where it would be safe from flooding, and basketball courts are a perfect fit.
Now, if it were hardwood, that would be.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
So the cost of this is a lot more than the grant. How do we intend to, if we approve this grant, what happens if we look at it and the cost escalates to the point where we decide not to do it? Do we just return the grant, or
We can pare down the project.
to get it within
take
where
out
the grant is?
Just do on-street parking instead of a parking lot, or.
Okay, well, that one item right there would resolve it.
Yep.
So, because I'm
But they do
interested.
have a 50/50, the requirement was 50, the most we could ask for was $50,000.
Okay. Yeah, I know that as of Saturday morning, there was a little bit of confusion about that, and I guess Gamble Nippert got a $5,000 grant, and we got a $50,000 grant at Clifford.
And I was
found
just,
that out through somebody
yeah, I was just going to actually speak to the work that Tiffany did on this. This was a pretty competitive grant. I mean, we're talking about competing against the whole country for these types of funds, and the work that she put into that application was exceptional, and I think that speaks to us getting such a large award, especially as you compare it to some of our other peer
Right. Oh, I'm
organizations.
very thankful. I'm just reading what's presented here.
Yep.
So it'll be interesting as it develops. No other comments from me.
None from me?
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Wall?
Yes.
Thanks, Tiffany.
Thank you, Board. The next couple items will be presented by Assistant Administrator McElravy.
Good evening, Board.
Good evening.
Good evening.
The next item in your agenda packet begins on page 55. This is a resolution authorizing the adoption of amended appropriations in 4 funds, 3 increases and 1 decrease. The first increase is in Fund 2911, which is our Parks Fund. This increases appropriations by $16,000 to repair the bathrooms in Colerain Park, where there recently was some vandalism. The second increase in appropriations is in Fund 2081, which is the Police Fund. This increases appropriations by $10,000 for expenses related to the operation of the impound lot. We've been impounding more vehicles, which means that we have more fees that we need to pay in order to be able to transact the business of getting cars back to their owners. So this increase in appropriations allows for that. The third increase is in Fund 2904, which is one of the TIFs that we were looking at earlier this evening. This is the Duke TIF. This increases appropriations by $24,000 to make a TIF compensation payment that we owe to the Northwest Local School District. And finally, the last change in appropriations is a reduction in appropriations. This is in Fund 2908. That is our Community Development Block Grant Fund, and that is a reduction in appropriations by $1 to address a rounding issue. The totals for each of those funds appear on page 56 and 57, along with every other fund in the township, and the staff recommendation is adoption of the resolution.
I motion that we adopt a resolution authorizing the adoption of amended appropriations.
I'll second that.
Any discussions?
None. Thank you for working on it.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Wall?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So the next item is on page 59 in your packet. It is the last step in the first step of the budget process. This is for the 2024 tax budget. As you may recall, the way that the process works is that the township develops an estimation of what the tax budget is going to be for the following year. The board adopts that, and then that goes down to the county budget commission for their review, and they sign off on it, and then they send it back to us, and it's our responsibility to say, thank you very much. We affirm the amounts that you have reviewed on our behalf. So this is a resolution accepting the amounts and rates in the 2024 tax budget. There are no changes from what we sent down to the county, and the staff recommendation is adoption of the resolution.
I motion we adopt the resolution accepting the amounts and rates as determined by the Budget Commission and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the county auditor.
I second that.
Any discussions?
And all this is just acknowledging our rates. This isn't anything but that.
Correct.
Just so people understand that. No other comments?
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Thank you, Board.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Board. As an item of old business, I forgot to mention during the administrative reports that there's more positive vibes this week. There's actually going to be a ribbon cutting dedication at the Pollinator Garden on Thursday at 5 p.m. The Pollinator Garden is located on Amarillo Court. There's going to be overflow parking in on Niagara. Sorry, I can't talk well today. And we're expecting that we're going to need to use that, so encourage folks to pay attention to that. And then under consent items, we had 2 consent items for consideration. The first is a contract with Spring Grove Cemetery for an indigent burial at a cost of $795. And the second is a contract for Leads Online at a cost of $1,249. And I would recommend approval of all consent items.
A motion that we would approve the 2 consent items, A and B.
I'll second. Any discussions?
Yes, indigent burials are a sad thing. When you have nobody else in your life, it falls to the township to handle your disposition of remains. So it's, may God rest the soul of Mary Thompson.
Ms. Orge?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Okay. Fiscal officer.
Thank you, Board. I have a brief report tonight. First, the system for the HR for tracking public records requests has been down, so there is no report on that. The county has been notified, and they're working on it. It should be fixed shortly. I can tell you, though, there's been a lot, and we've fulfilled a lot. And then lastly, we not only have closed the financials for August, but also September. So we're working on very fast to get those things done. So the bank reconciliation for September has been completed with a adjusted bank balance of $56,736,132.97. And that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there an executive session needed?
I do not see a need for executive session.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Okay. We are adjourned at 8. Well, got to get a vote again that we adjourn. I always do that.
Ms. Orch?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Bang this gavel. 8:28. We're adjourned. Thank you.